Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I'm speaking with Alex and Eric from the Underground podcast. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having us on here. We definitely appreciate it. I'm Eric.
And I'm Alex.
And I've already said I'm Marv.
Everybody got the introductions there.
That's true. So, before going into the show history, what was your own podcast listening before you started? What sort of like inspired you in the podcasting world?
Well, with me, I started off getting into some podcasts. I watch a YouTube show called Good Mythical Morning, which I don't know if people are aware of it, but it's a YouTube show, and they have a podcast called Ear Biscuits that they put out every week. So. And I enjoyed that. So I'm like, it was just two lifelong friends, just talking about stuff for an hour. And I'm like, oh, that seems like fun. I don't want to just talk random smack. So I wanted to get something like a topic. So I enjoy horror movies, and I knew Alex enjoyed them. We seeing each other's posts back and forth on Twitter. And so I just reached out to him and said, hey, man, you want to do a horror podcast with me? And it was boring.
Hold on. So I thought I was just being a guest on the podcast for one. And like, it was because like I was telling my wife, I was like, yeah, this guy I know, Eric, he wants me to be on his podcast. And so I thought it was just going to be a guest thing. But I am so, I say that jokingly, but I'm very, very glad that I was able to, become a part of the show rather than just showing up.
Yeah, he mentioned that after like the first, I think like 5 episodes that I had him on.
I didn't have the heart to bring it up.
He's like, man, I thought I was just going to be a guest on here, one time thing. I'm like, no, man, you're in this for the long haul. I can't do it without you.
It took you 5 episodes to realize.
I realize that I'm staying here. Yeah.
It just kind of got like brought up randomly, and like I said, he didn't know how to bring that up, and I can't speak for him, but if it was me, I'd be like, well, this dude just keeps asking me, am I ready to do the podcast this week, and are we going to do another one? So why the hell not?
Yeah, I'm down. No, I just I wasn't too sure about what we were doing, and then we kind of at the beginning of it we didn't really have a not like a schedule, I guess, but more of like a format, like what exactly in the realm of horror that we wanted to talk about. So we kind of dabbled in a couple different things. We did a episode on like a YouTube video about the back rooms. We did an episode of what was that show? X-Files. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of dabbled in a couple different things as we got started, and then eventually I think we kind of just decided to stick mostly to podcasts movies in our realm of reviewing podcasts.
So have you got a structure that you use for the show, or is it just general chat? And what sort of research do you do leading up to the show?
Pretty much with structure wise, like I said there, we didn't have really much of any structure in the first episodes. I think that if listeners listen to the first couple episodes, they'll see that it is just every which direction. I think in one episode we mentioned something about wrestling and had a little thing on that. So we just kind of went crazy. It started out with just, the horror portion of things. Like we did the X-Files, we did a YouTube Backrooms tapes. but it kind of gotten to where it is now, to where we have the structure, we have the intros, and we talk about the film that we do, or that we're doing for that episode. We actually go back and forth. Alex picks one, I pick one, and whoever choice it is for the episode, they lead the discussion of the movie. We essentially just go through the movie and give our take on it. Alex does a great job at it. He takes you through the movie like a storybook, and it's amazing. I'm so glad that I got him on there as my partner in this journey, because he does such a great job with it. I always hate when I have to lead, because I do probably half as good of a job as he does, if that. But he we just feed off each other and just go from there. We rate the film at the end, and after the show we have like an after show thing to where we discuss random horror related questions that we find on Facebook, Twitter, things like that. Research wise, we just watch the movie, take notes on the film, and just go back and forth and have the banner.
Yeah. I like to look into production of a lot of these films. So like Eric will often discuss like the budget and things like that. And I love to look up fun facts, because I've always been like a sucker for documentaries, for filmmaking and just things in general. But yeah, I feel like Eric and I have a good chemistry because we have a lot of the same things in common. Like you mentioned, wrestling. Wrestling's how I got into podcasting. I've been listening to podcasts since like 2006, 2007. I stumbled because on iTunes, one of the things that you could do for free on there, because back in the day you had to buy each individual song. But back in the day, they had a podcast section, and I was like, I wonder if there's like anything on pro wrestling on here, because it's like a radio. And so I would listen to these review shows, and like people would upload matches, like wrestling matches and stuff, onto certain podcast platforms. So that's kind of how I got into it. And thanks to a lot of the things that Eric and I have in common, like I said, I think we have a good chemistry, and I think it just works out really well.
So is it just naturally an extension of you to the way that you were chatting with each other already?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the chattering that we had back and forth, we actually live in different states. I'm in Ohio in the U.S. He's in Indiana. So it's kind of neighbors states wise. But the most chatter that we had was just pretty much, typing through Twitter and stuff. So this kind of got us to build our friendship a little bit more, to where we actually, got to talk to each other, just like we're doing now on the podcast, and kind of be more involved in each other's well-being type of thing. So there's been a lot of positive sides to this. Instead of just being more of acquaintances, we've developed more of a friendship out of it than just acquaintance out of it, which is fun, which is always cool, in my opinion.
So yeah, you've already mentioned that when it comes to films, you'll take turns. So what makes you decide to pick a film? And do you ever think of a subject and then think maybe this isn't the right thing to have a discussion about?
There's been a couple films that we've discussed reviewing and like never got around to doing. I remember we've both watched them, we've both taken notes, but then the episode just never happened for various reasons. I'm not like, we were planning on having a guest on one show, someone who was related to Eric, who had actually been on the production of one of the movies. And we will probably get to that at some point, but it was a timing issue sometimes. So we just never got around to doing it, but we don't want it to stop us from continuing on with the show.
Yeah. And there was a time last year we actually had a Thanksgiving horror movie picked out, and we were going to do it. And it just, first of all, the movie was, I watched maybe the first 20 minutes of it. It was just god awful. Which we still review movies that are bad just for fun. But it's just we're like, no, we decided to actually go in a whole different direction and pick a whole another movie. I think it also had to do with timing a little bit too, but that was an instance that I remember that I was actually happy that we didn't do that. We might cycle back around this year. I'm not quite sure yet, but I was glad that we didn't do it at that point in time. But yeah, I mean, like you said, my brother works in film, so we were going to have him on, but just scheduling conflicts. But I hope to have him on to get a little insight. And the way that we pick movies, we just pick ones that interest us, I guess. Like coming up, we're doing the movie Creep, I believe is what it is. Is that right, Alex?
Yep, Creep. It's a 2014 found footage film that I stumbled across on Netflix when I was just trying to find something new to watch. And so I was like, this looks bad. I should watch it. And so I just kind of clicked on it and went along with it. And what I think of that film can be found out when we do the recording.
No spoilers here.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. So you've made your decision what you're going to talk about, and you've got your notes together and done your research. How do you then? I'm guessing it's done much the same as we're doing now, where you'll get together over Zoom or something similar, and then that does the recording, and then do you edit it then, or do you put it out much as it is?
Recording wise, we actually record ours with Spotify for podcasters. It used to be called
Anchor.
Anchor. Yes, thank you. But Spotify bought it out, so it's Spotify for podcasters, and it's pretty much just we connect through there, and it records and everything through that. And then once we're done, I edit the episode, take out dead spots and things to where it's just not very interesting type of stuff. Or if we have a guest on, we had a guest on, I think our first guest that we had, there was certain things that was mentioned that I didn't want to put in the episode for various reasons. So I kind of edited some portions out with that. But the editing process is fun. And I say that sarcastically. Alex is nice enough to hopefully maybe get down on the editing process here in the next couple episodes. But it's tedious work because it's zooming in and out, because I do it all on the iPad, and it's a lot of zooming in and out, highlighting stuff. And there's been an episode to where I accidentally highlighted and deleted the wrong thing, and I deleted half of the episode. So we had to go back and re-record that, and that was not a text message I wanted to send. Was like, hey, I was editing the episode last night, and I kind of deleted half of it. So
what was that for? Terrifier 2?
I think it was Terrifier 2. It was because I had to rewatch it because I forgot what we discussed, and thankfully it was a good flick. If you haven't listened to our episode for Terrifier 2, great movie. But so thankfully it wasn't a pain in the ass to rewatch and re-record. But it's all through Spotify for podcasters. Great application for people that's just getting into podcasting. I highly recommend it. It's a free tool, and it's very simple to use.
Bit of advice here for people to ensure that doesn't happen in the future. Always have a backup.
Right.
What do you use for distribution and recording? I mean, like, obviously we're in Zoom right now, but what kind of editing do you do? I'm just curious.
I used to do really harsh editing when I first started, and I've got a lot looser with it since, to the degree where the other week I put out an episode with absolutely no edits whatsoever.
Okay.
So and I use whatever I can get hold of. I've got Audacity, and I've got Reaper as well.
I used all that. I used to have a podcast about pro wrestling, and I would use Audacity to edit as well. And I was very it was a very tedious task because I'd be like listening minute to minute and making small adjustments because it was when I first started out trying to do podcasts and there was a lot of uhs and ums. There still are, but I feel like I've gotten at least a little better at it.
Yeah, I have to edit out a lot of my uhs and ums. It's not much of Alex's ums and uhs that I have to edit, but mine is a lot. but yeah, it's good stuff to use for Spotify. I'm glad I found that. And I did use Audacity at one point in time as well for just random recording items. So I might actually use that as a backup to use. So good tips. And that's another reason why I like your podcast is listening to how others do things and how others come up with their ideas and kind of just feed off that as well, because you can always learn, and podcasting is no different.
A good thing to do as well is when you've done your edit or your editing is to listen back to it again and just make sure that then the whole thing flows as well. And that's why it's a good idea to have a backup, because if you've got a backup file of it and you find that after you've done the edit, it's almost like it doesn't quite work for some reason or another, you can still go to that backup and sort of like tidy it up, but slightly differently, to tidy up the bits in the edit that you've done where you think, oh, hold on a minute, that seems to go from there to there and it doesn't flow right. You can correct it using the original backup to do that.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That way, any changes you make aren't like permanent. You'll have the original file to go with.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah.
Well, that's good news for Alex for next time, for his first time. Yeah,
for my first editing on the show. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely have to do Audacity. I never really thought of that, but
I still use Audacity for like my other stuff that I do too, like for when I record my voiceovers for YouTube and then vocals for music. I use Audacity and then just export it into other programs for editing.
Yeah, because Audacity allows you to use multiple formats. So yeah.
Yeah, and with the episode of you mentioned putting out an episode just raw and uncut. I've thought about doing that and just taking out the portion of where we're just talking smack a little bit at the beginning to how the episode's going to flow. But I thought about just putting out a raw episode, see how the audience reacts to those, if it gets more listens, and see how that goes. So be looking out for that. I might do one of those coming up here. And also I use Twitch. I do my video feeds live on Twitch from time to time. I meant to do it while we're doing this one here, but I didn't hit go quick enough. So yeah, I do. I just started that a week ago, two episodes ago. But that's another thing that we're doing.
At first for the Evil Dead episode.
Yeah.
So about 2 weeks ago, or 3.
So did you get any live feedback while you were doing that?
Not really too much on the live feedback. I'm hoping to do more. I think people mainly go to Twitch for video games. So to do the podcast and talk shows, it's not really the market per se, but I do my video games there. So I'm like, why not? I at least just put it out there, and people that go to my channel to view the gaming footage, they'll see the past episodes for podcasts, and maybe it'll suit their fancy and they might want to take a look at it. But
I've always thought the podcasting and like talk show kind of live things were more popular on YouTube, because I used to watch a lot of live podcasts on YouTube. So, and I could always just go back whenever I didn't get to catch it live. I would just watch it, again during a playback. So it just kind of depends on what I think people are looking for and where they're looking for it.
Yeah. And with Streamlabs, that's what I use to do the video to go on Twitch, it has that option of putting it on your YouTube channel too. So, always learning. So there's a strong possibility that that'll be an option there as well. But you can, at least for the past couple episodes and going forward, you can see all of our stuff on Twitch as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched live podcasts before on places like Facebook, and you also, I mean, until somebody who bought into Twitter has tried to make it into a absolute shit show. That was a great place to have, like, the podcast hosting that you have on that's available on there.
It's what's Spaces, I think it's called.
That's it, Twitter Spaces.
Yep.
Yep. I use that kind of off tangent. I used that when I did security work. I did a night shift security work at a mall, and and I can see that's you as well. And I used to get on Twitter Spaces and just talk random stuff while I'm sitting there patrolling the parking lot of our dirt mall that we have here in Ohio. And
Dirt mall.
Oh, dude, don't get me started on this mall. It has
more information. He discusses this in an early episode.
I actually forgot about that too. But yeah, I just drove around the parking lot and got on Twitter Spaces, and I got a random guy from Europe. I don't know if he was there in the UK, but he was in Europe somewhere, and he was just like, "Oh, well, it was nice talking to you." And it was at like 3:00 in the morning my time, so I'm not quite sure exactly what that was y'all's time, but yeah, it was interesting. He didn't really talk much. He just typed it in and stuff, and it was entertaining.
I like how I made you laugh with my opinion of what Twitter's turning into, which is awful, because I've done Twitter since day one.
No,
I was on Twitter when I've had various accounts, but yeah, I remember when Twitter first started when it was first kind of announced back in the day.
Yeah.
Because some YouTubers that I followed were like, "Oh, we're going to be on Twitter now too," and I was like, "Oh, I want to see, stay up to date with them." They don't have a Facebook, so I created my own and just kind of hung around there. Somebody from Russia tried to gain access to it. The old Twitter that I had like a month or two ago.
Oh, wow. Snap.
So I just deleted it. I was like, all right, it's gone.
Yeah, that's all it took for me. But yeah, Twitter is unfortunately getting to be that type of thing. I was searching actually for a movie that my brother's doing or a TV series, and I put it in and I seen a couple of them with the check mark on it. I'm like, oh, this has to be the movie because it has the check mark. Yeah, it's a negative Ghost Rider. It was just some random person from like Georgia. But it's a mess. It's a mess.
Well, nowadays they've got more money than I'd flipping want to pay out. That's for sure. If you want that check,
right? Absolutely. And what is it, like $10 now to have the blue check now?
Isn't it $130 a year or something?
Oh, good God! Yeah, that would.
I'm not going to pay nothing.
No, I'm not paying anything either.
Screw that noise. I think I did it for like 2 or 3 months, and I never got my blue check. So I was all pissed off, and I'm like, you know what, Elon? I gave you, some money. If I would have got my blue check, I might still have it just for shits and giggles. But I didn't even get my blue check mark. I'm like, I paid you your money. So that lasted all but 2 months. Never did get it.
Paying the money and you don't even get it. It's terrible.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, fool me once, shame on you. A fooled man can't be fooled again.
Yeah.
Whatever U.S. president said that, one of our lovely past presidents. W.
If that's what he's like with Twitter, I'm not sure about his cars.
Right. They're overpriced too, and I'd rather have get a Dodge Viper or some type of sports car than get a Tesla.
Yep. And quite honestly, I mean, those batteries on there don't last long enough, do they? So, you'll have to charge them halfway to wherever you're going.
Absolutely.
So I've put show music and show logo. So how did those come about?
With the music, it's pretty much just stock music with Spotify. With the Spotify for podcasters, they have just some random like interludes for it. There's an option to where you can pick music that's on Spotify from actual artists and things that I just haven't done yet in any of our episodes. I've thought about it. But back when Spotify, before it was Spotify with Anchor, you could record an ad. It didn't matter how many listeners or followers you had, you could still do an ad. And each time somebody listened, you got, a few cents to be able to earn for your podcast. But when Spotify took over, they cut that out. So like our 3 or 4 most recent episodes aren't monetized in that sense. I still put some ads in there for that I have. But as far as previously with the music, it wouldn't, if you put that ad in there for Anchor, you weren't able to do any other type of music in there. It wouldn't let you be monetized with music. But now with Spotify for podcasters, it allows you to put that in there. So I'll try that in the next few episodes. As far as the logo goes, our main logo that's on our cover art, I'm going to call it. I'll let Alex explain that.
So it's just a drawing that I did for a Friday the 13th. Because I really enjoyed, it's not that I enjoyed it because it's a bad game, but like the aesthetic I enjoy of the original NES Friday the 13th game, with like the purple jumpsuit Jason, and he has like a teal hockey mask. And so I drew something similar to that up, and he's popping out of like a retro TV, and there's like the game, the NES is like on a floor. And so I just drew that up, and then Eric asked if we could use it. I said, of course, because I'm not much of an artist. I'm a doodler more than anything. But he put a filter on it, and that's just how we got the logo.
Yeah, and I like that he put on the side of there, he put "you and your friends are dead," because that's when you died in the game. That's what popped up on it. So I'm like, hey, it's perfectly fitting for what we're doing. So why not, And like I said, put a filter on it, put some added some little bit wordage on there, and Yahtzee. We also have some merch that we're starting, that my niece is actually in school for digital media and things, and she made some logos for us. So we have those starting our merch line that we're going to probably release here soon with those for people that just want to support the show, a different way to support it. But she did some drawings and digital media stuff for us as well, which is pretty cool. But yeah, those were our options there for logos and things of that nature. We got the more hands-on approach there with Alex drawing it, and then we have the digital portion of where my niece just created a digital, instead of like freestyle drawing, it was just all taking things from other aspects of things and essentially just more copy pasting and aligning things and putting filters on things and things of that nature.
I'm so glad you mentioned that bit at the side, the words, because I know I'd almost completely forgotten about it. And then when you said it, I thought, yeah, because I kept wondering about that and thinking, where's that come from? I like it, but I don't know where it comes from. There was something there niggling at the back of my head thinking, I'm sure that's from something, but I couldn't remember where. The music thing, I was just thinking, so if you're using Spotify and you're able to use music from there, isn't there a possibility of when you do films, you might be able to use potentially something from the soundtrack in your show?
Absolutely. And that's something that I'm going to look into with doing that there, especially in the portion of where it's the intro going into the actual podcast to kind of give people a little bit of a taste of what movie we're doing. Because if you haven't noticed, the titles of our podcast of each episode has the name of the movie that we do. I incorporate that in the title somehow. I don't just say, hey, this is the movie that we're doing. I try and make it a little bit more so you have to think about it, maybe not too much. If you're a horror fan, okay, yeah, that's the movie. But if you're not a horror fan or just getting into it, you'll wonder, hey, what's this all about? And then when you actually listen to the podcast, you're like, I see what he did there.
Yeah, there's a lot of puns in there, that's for sure.
Yes, and I don't know what made me think of that idea to do like the first one that we did. I just called it the Genesis because it was our very first one, and then from there I just went from trying to think of just a one-liner of including it, and so far I haven't been stumped yet with any of the movies that we've done. I'm sure there'll be a point to where I get stumped, and thankfully I have Alex there with me, so I can ask him to. I'm like, hey, I can't think of something. Give me some ideas.
You're missing it there. You see, you could have a living coming up with bylines for newspapers.
Hey, I'm right there. If there's any newspapers, people that own some newspapers that's around here listening to the podcast, hit me up. Jigsaw Puppet on Twitter. @Under the Pod is the podcast. I'm open for some contraction, some contract work, contractual work. Words are hard. English is hard.
English is hard. Don't talk. Just watch films.
Right. That's
just
what
grunt and watch films. That's what I do in my spare time.
just do the dad grunting. Alex is a guinea pig dad, so he can learn his dad grunting from the grunts of the guinea pigs.
The irritating thing is that we have to be pissed off all the time having to work between all this fun.
Hey, that's the truth there. I've tried to make things that I enjoy doing as my full-time job, and my wife is like, nope, give me that guaranteed money. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she's like, I got Amazon shopping to do. so I'm kind of stuck with having the 9-to-5 job and just doing this stuff on the side. And every time I tell her, I'm like, hey, I'm recording a podcast today, she just rolls her eyes and was like, eh.
So when you come home, you think you're coming home to an Amazon warehouse?
Well, I actually work from home, so right. It's the camera goes off for the front porch, and my phone vibrates. I'm like, oh shit! I'm like, what's she ordering now? Like, it's just random stuff. She's like, well, I'm buying stuff for the kids. I'm like, no. She'll see something on Facebook or and she'll be like, oh, I want that. And she'll just get on there and buy it. And I told her, I'm like, hey, the bills are paid. I don't care what you do. Just go crazy. That's what I'm here for. I'm just here to pay bills. That's all I'm here for.
That's why they love us.
Right.
What's this? So standout moments from the show then, Alex, have you got any standout favourite moments or films that you've looked at?
Well, I have a bad habit of I always bring up Rob Zombie in his filmography in about every single episode.
I'm a White Zombie fan, so yeah, go on.
Actually, White Zombie was the first. So Rob Zombie and White, like obviously Rob Zombie, White Zombie,
yeah,
similar, almost the same, whatever, however you want to describe it. But I got into Rob Zombie listening to his music on like YouTube and things like that. And then me and my buddy went to a CD store, and I saw a White Zombie CD, and I was like, this actually looks like similar to Rob Zombie. I wonder if they're the same at all. And I bought it without knowing. So that's kind of how I got introduced to White Zombie. But yeah, I always bring up Rob Zombie's films just because they're so interesting to me. I can't say whether I like them, but they are certainly movies. But I bring those up a lot. And then I had never watched the X-Files before until we did an episode over the X-Files. So that was pretty interesting. But I enjoy what Eric does with the names of all the episodes. Just those are just kind of the standout moments for me.
Yeah, even though he moans about English and having to speak, he's very good at the wordplay.
Thank you. Yeah, and for me, standout moments. I enjoy having listeners on the episodes. We've had 2 listeners on so far in the 3 seasons that we've been out in a little over a year, and I enjoy that. One was season 2, episode 2 that we did on Bunny Manventions. That was a good time. With
that was a movie.
It was indeed, it was, if you want to call it that. But it was fun to have a listener in there and kind of go back and forth with, and then recently on season 3, episode 2, we did Smile with a listener as well, and that was fun. He was actually a coworker, remote coworker of mine, and I told him that I do a podcast, and he's like, "Oh, that's awesome! I'm listening to it." I'm like, "Hey, well, if you want to join us one episode, I'll let you know what movie we're doing, and you can come on if you want." He's like, "Yeah, that'd be fun." So that's how that happened. I think we had a good banter, going back and forth with him. So that was fun. The season 2, episode 2, episode. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was entertaining. I'll give it that at the most. So, even if the movie is bad, we try and keep it as entertaining as possible. And throwing a third person in there was just that. It was entertaining.
So how did those guests come about then? How did you, first of all, know them, and how did you then get them to come on the show?
Well, for the season 2, episode 2, it was actually a friend of my wife's. She just pretty much stays at home a lot. She's a homebody, and I was just sharing my podcast. She's like, I want to be on one with you. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, here's the movie that we're watching. Watch it, and I'll let you know when we record. So that's how that one essentially came about. And then the other one, it was a coworker of mine. I just mentioned it to him, and he decided to come on as well. So I'm hoping to, get more listeners as episodes get put out and people follow us on Twitter and, things from here. We're always open for listener interaction, and I always enjoy, if we could do every episode with a listener, that'd be dope. But we'd love to, that's why we do it. That's why anybody does podcasts is for the listeners and to interact with people. And I at least look forward to that. And I can't speak for Alex, but I'm sure he does as well.
No, I hate people. No. I totally. I was like, what we did a week or 2 ago was have a guest on the show, and I totally spaced it. But yeah, no, guests. I don't have a lot of friends in my area that are into horror, so it's kind of like it's always refreshing to be able to get other people's takes and things like that. So whenever we have a guest and I can interact with them or just interact with people in general, in regards to this field that we look into, it's always fun. So and just kind of getting other people's opinions. Like I'm in a Facebook group, and sometimes I'll post, that we're watching this film, what it was everybody's thoughts, and then we'll pick a couple of them and just kind of discuss it and discuss, whether we agree with their stance or can see where their perspective is coming from.
I was going to mention, actually, I forgot to mention earlier on when we talked about recording and editing. I noticed when listening to the show, the speed with which you must have had an upgrade in equipment over that time, because the actual sound quality got so much better so far into the show.
Yeah, with that, actually, it goes back to Anchor. Before, I didn't realize that I could have Alex call in essentially and then join the thing so he can just use his mic like we're using now.
Yeah.
So I actually had him on Skype, and I had the phone right next to the speaker with him on Skype. And yeah, that was a shit show. But we got it done. And we learned things as it goes. How did you like being on doing the Skype route, Alex?
So I didn't know until that was how we were doing things until I listened back to the first episode after we recorded, and I was like, is my microphone really that bad? And like I was like concerned about it, but I never brought it up. I was like, maybe it's like a thing, because there was a time when we did a recording and I could kind of see Eric. I could see him like how we see him now. And I like it played back in my ear somehow. And I was like, okay, I get it now. Like I'm on like speakerphone, and that's kind of how we're doing it. And then things have gotten better as the course of time has gone on. But it wasn't the worst way that I've ever recorded anything. I used to, like, when I first started making music, I would hold a microphone between a set of speakers and me, because I didn't know how to put the instrumental into Audacity. So I would just record me and the beat and then upload that. So it's not the worst thing, but I love to see progress. Like, it's all about learning how you've done things, how you can do things better, learning new equipment, learning new editing softwares. Like I for one think that you can never learn enough, or like there's always a way to improve your craft. And so I think that's always a positive, is learning more about how to improve and go on and getting advice from other people, like how this show does things.
He's being way too kind with that, and he's saying, he didn't want to mention stuff, and that's how we progress, and that's how we've done there. And the more that after he realized that he's, part of the podcast and he's not just a guest for 5 episodes, I'm always, that openness is kind of getting a little bit better. So throughout the episodes, you can not only see our progress with recording, but you can kind of see our progress with being more comfortable with each other as well. Because we both have struggle with like depression and anxiety and stuff. So it's always that initial thing of, at least it is for me, with, meeting somebody and trying to find that common ground. And then once you find that, then you just roll with it. And that's another cool thing about our podcast, that you can see that progression throughout all the episodes. And, we were talking about earlier about raw episodes. That's essentially what the first season and a half is just raw. And you can see the progression with it.
The sparks kind of starting to grow and everything.
But I mean, I was talking with somebody recently about that, about the podcasting world, and the fact that it's something that is very useful in that way, that if you're somebody who's sort of a bit internal, or you have very few people that you can connect with, like you were saying, with very few people, Alex, that are into horror films, for instance. But I think some people have said that this thing of podcasting helps with people's mental health, or it can do in some ways, because it's actually putting them out there, and it's making them more open to chatting with people, and it's making them more outward and less internal, if that makes sense. It's something that a lot of people have spoken about with mental health.
I can definitely see that, because I've become a part of a few communities of podcasts that I listen to.
Yeah.
And so like seeing those communities grow and build and people developing friendships through I guess it'd be called like a fan base, possibly, is like if you're a fan of a podcast and you kind of connect with other people who also enjoy that podcast and things of that nature. It's always good to see, and hearing people have opinions and thoughts and enjoying the same things that you enjoy, or even going through the same struggles that you go through. It kind of makes the world feel a little less lonely, and it makes you want to branch out and reach out more. So I can see where people would get the mental health aspects of it.
Yeah, and I'm a huge advocate for mental health. I mean, for what I can anyway, and I totally agree. And that, again, that's why we want to reach out to listeners too, because of what we've just discussed. We have a tagline, and I always have Alex say it. And if you've listened to the episodes, we say it at the end. But that tagline isn't just a catchy thing that Alex made. It's it literally what we've been talking about, how it brings people together. And you wouldn't necessarily think that horror would bring people together, but there's a huge fan base of horror movies and horror culture and things. And I'll let Alex give our tagline there, and maybe give a little bit more explanation on how I came up with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, so it's horror is for everyone, but not every horror is for everyone. So like the aspect behind that is that there are some things that are off limits to people. Some people cannot do body horror. They can't do things like Saw or Hostel, or just the more gory aspects of it. I have friends that really enjoy the Evil Dead franchise. Like one of my friends, he'll always say, like jokingly, he'll say, I don't know if it counts as a horror movie, but my favorite horror movie is Army of Darkness. And I tell him, I'm like, it's completely valid. It is a horror comedy, so it falls in the aspects of the horror realm. I'm trying to validate his opinion, his thoughts, because he's not big into it. He enjoys aspects of it. His dad grew up watching he watched old monster movies with his dad. One of my friends is big into Godzilla. So it's kind of like those things can fall in the horror realm. And that is so like there are pieces that can be for everyone, whether you just want to watch like a horror special, or like a like Courage the Cowardly Dog, for example. Like that plays into like children's horror, or like Goosebumps or things like that. Like there's lighter stuff, there's heavier stuff. It's kind of like a palette, like what you want, what you're looking for, and what you can handle.
And dude, you mentioned Courage. We're going to have to just maybe on an April Fool's episode do Courage the Cowardly Dog episode. That is epic. I love it.
Let's face it, Teletubbies can be scary to some people.
Oh God, don't get me started on that. Now I'm going to have nightmares now.
The episode with like the floating farmer's head like haunted me forever. Like as a little kid, I remember I was watching that episode, and then we went to like it was like a Chuck E. Cheese type thing, but it's local here in Indiana. And they actually had that episode playing up behind the prize counter, and I would not go up there until it went to like a commercial break, because the floating farmer's head just freaked me out.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, with that there, some horror, when people think of horror, they think of like the body horror, like the saws and just all this grotesque stuff, and not all horrors like that. I mean, you can be a fan of like the Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, comedy horror. There's lost footage horror, which we're going to get into. There's all kinds, and you just have to find that niche, and just branch out from there. And if you don't want to branch out and just want to do comedy horror, that's awesome. We're all for it. To us, some of this like body horror, like the Bunny Man franchise that we did, that has that body horror in there for the like the grotesque type of stuff. But to us, they were hilarious because the films were just so bad, and it made you laugh. You know, it had that gore aspect of things, but it made you laugh as well. You couldn't help but laugh. And that's what we mean by that.
But a lot of filmmakers that make those sort of body horror films, they will openly say that what they do is unrealistic to that point where to them it is humor. It is humorous and it is comedy to them. They're doing it as a sort of thing to make them laugh. And it's like, oh, there's no way that 30 pints of blood are going to come out of somebody. And that's their way of being humorous and making themselves laugh. And it's their sense of humor.
Yeah. Right. And it goes back to Terrifier. We did Terrifier 2. And I don't know if you've seen Terrifier, but that is a gory movie, but the character of Art the Clown is just that. He's a clown. And it is hilarious just with his body language and his movements that he does. It's great. It has both the best of both worlds in that series. And they're coming out with a third one too, which we can't wait for. But it's a prime example of that.
But you know, like you were hinting at. I mean, you don't even need that there, the body horror or anything like that, to give you that sort of like scare. You've got films, you know, if you go to other films like The Others, for instance, which isn't body horror, it's different. It's like a psychological horror where something's going on, but you're not quite there. And then you've got something even going back as far as like Hitchcock with Psycho, which isn't very show and telly. You don't see much, but what you do see, it's the implication more than anything else that puts that eeriness in you that gives you that value.
It's kind of like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
I believe they used only maybe like a bucket worth of blood within the entire film. You don't actually see a lot of the violence, but it's all like a mental thing. So like a lot of that is the person projecting like what their mind can think of as like how gory and violent something like that can be. Because originally, I think Toby Hooper wanted it to be PG-13, and they actually had to cut stuff out. Otherwise, it was going to be like an X-rated film.
Yeah, and a movie that actually comes out tomorrow here in the States is Insidious, the Insidious franchise. I'm actually going out to see that opening day tomorrow, the new Insidious, and that is just a total mind screw. I'll keep it PG-13 here.
Yeah.
But it's I fell in love with that series with the first one because it was so cool, because the creator of the first Insidious was actually the writer for Saw. And they're two different films. One is the body and the gore, and then you have the mind screw there with Insidious. And when I first saw that, because that's the whole reason why I watched the first Insidious, because I'm like, oh, dude, the dude that wrote Saw wrote this one. I'm there, and I fell in love with the franchise. And it's the same thing with Insidious. It's the same thing with Saw. They just it never loses its the quality of it. With Saw, you had the what's happening, what's going on. You don't know what's going on until the end, and there's that plot twist. And Insidious essentially has that same thing, only without the gore. It has the jump scares, the something's going to pop out or something's going to be in the background. You just don't know when. So when you see it, you just jump and scream obscenities in the movie theater like a little kid. At least I do. I do this the screaming like a little kid, and then I show the adult side of me by screaming obscenities. But and that's why I love horror, because I love that initial jolt, that initial reaction. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'm almost 40 years old and I still have, some nightmares about it. And I'm not even mad at it. I welcome it. I'm like, hey, this is cool. I wake up, I'm like, all right, I know why I dreamt that, but dope. Let's do it.
Don't you worry that somebody that's like that though, that's worked on the both Saw and Insidious, so that's 2 for 2 essentially. He's got that's a winner and that's a winner. There's always the worry with filmmakers like that they might go the route of the Shyamalan, where he started strong, really really strong, and then there was like this drop there. And I mean, it could happen with any filmmaker, really. But it's almost like you're worried and you're waiting for that decline almost in their filmmaking.
Yeah, and I know, especially with Saul, and with having my brother in movies as well. He actually did a movie that has Liam Winnall in it, and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. You got to meet Liam Winnall. He's like, no, not really. He's kind of a dick. And I'm like, that's disappointing. But I like his movies. I'll still watch his movies because his movies are great. I just, it's taken off my bucket list to actually meet the guy, but I'll still watch his movies. I mean, as long as he's not like, some horrible person. If he's just, thinks he's all that, then that's fine. I can still watch his movies and support that, I guess. But you'll have, I'm just waiting, like you said, you're waiting for that decline. I hope it never happens, but still going strong, so that's good.
Yep, the famous saying, never try and meet your heroes.
Absolutely. And still don't watch all the movies that have your heroes in it, because we watched we reviewed Fear Clinic. I think didn't we review Fear Clinic, Alex? Did we drop that episode?
I think that's one of the ones that we dropped that we were going to have your brother on.
Okay. We did Fear Clinic, and I don't know if we released it or not, but it has Robert Englund in it, who plays Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
And it's not, I don't look at Freddy Krueger the same after I've seen his bare ass. And you saw that in Fear Clinic. You saw Robert Englund just butt naked, and I don't want to see
Is that the
again.
one that had like the ball sack of fear or whatever?
Very possible. I think it did.
Like, I think it had like something hanging from a ceiling, and it looked like the equivalent of like a ball sack.
Yeah, it's just my standout was just Robert Englund's butt. I'm like, dude, that's Freddy. He's not so scary now. But it's a movie to watch. I mean, it was interesting. It was a different aspect of Freddy, of Robert Englund. And I still like him as an actor. I just don't care to see that aspect of him.
He was fantastic in the V series in the 80s. I don't know if
yeah.
you've ever seen that.
Yeah, I mean, even in Fear Clinic, he was phenomenal. He made that movie. That movie was horrible, and even my brother who worked on it, he's like, that was the worst. It was bad. It was a bad movie, but he made that movie tolerable. He's that good of an actor that he made that movie tolerable. They gave him crap and he polished it. Great actor. Great actor.
Did your brother meet him?
Very briefly. I think with that, he was mostly doing like the bookings and the hotel bookings for the actors and making sure that they're all happy. So I don't know. I'll have to ask him. I think he did briefly. Didn't get to sit down and chat with him, I don't think, but yeah, and same with Leo Winnall there. He didn't sit down and chat, but I guess he just had a lot of like demands essentially of what he needed, and it was kind of outrageous. But part of the job, I guess, when you're in film and get to deal with actors and actresses and stuff. So pretty neat. Yeah, but we hope to have him on the show one time. He's just extremely busy, as you can imagine. But yeah.
Do you have go on?
What,
I was going. Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to see if Alex had a hero that he wanted to meet with that, because this is the type of stuff that we haven't been able to talk about on our podcast, because we just mainly deal with the actual movie aspect of things. And I was just curious with that.
Oh, two heroes of mine that I've met. I've met Rey Mysterio and I've met Mick Foley. Both incredibly kind people. I don't know if it was like, I don't know how to describe it. I guess like their handlers, like the people, like security officials, things like that, like people that helped run like the meet and greet events, were telling them not to take pictures with people. But so like I was nervous about, my mom was like, we'll just do a quick picture. Like my mom was ready to break the rules. She was like, just turn and look at me and I'll get a quick picture with you and Rey Mysterio. And I was like, oh, I can't break the rules. And so we, I hurried off stage and my mom was like, what are you doing? We're supposed to get a picture. And, he called me back up there and was like, he sat there and took pictures with me and he told me not to be so shy and things like that. So sometimes it's good to meet your heroes.
I went to a Comic-Con, and
nice.
my other half, Louise, was very clever, because so as opposed to paying the ridiculous prices that some of these people charge, she was very clever and actually took a photo of me as I was going near, sort of past his table where he was stood doing something. So it looked like we were next to each other just as she took the photograph. And so, yeah, that's just brilliant. The wonders of digital photography. I can't remember who the hell it was. Okay. I really can't. The most friendly person I've ever met that's like that would be the chap who played Boba Fett, who recently passed away. I'm trying to remember what his flipping name is now.
Oh, the original Boba Fett?
Is it Jeremy Bulloch? Yes, who played the original Boba Fett, yeah. And he was a lovely guy. He was a lovely guy. I spoke with him for 20 to 30 minutes. And great. I mean, he didn't charge anything or whatever. He just stood there for the photographs and we just talked. Most of the time we talked about James Bond, actually, because he's in 3 Bond films.
Oh, that's dope. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you never know. It's hit or miss with that, and it's always a plus to meet your heroes, so to speak. There, I did the same thing with a hip hop artist. I had a really good experience. Spose out of Maine here in the States. I went to one of his shows here in Ohio and got to meet him, and he signed a Boston Celtics hat of mine, and he follows me on Twitter. So I seen that he was coming to Ohio, and I said, hey, it sucks. I'm trying to find tickets and get up the money to get the tickets and everything. He's like, oh, I'm sure a fan or somebody else might, get you the money so you can hope to see you at the show and all this. And when I went up to see him, I'm like, yeah, I got to make it. I didn't think I was going to make it here today. And he's like, oh, are you the one that was on Twitter? I'm like, yeah, that's me. He's like, oh, well, shook my hand. I was like, I'm glad you made it, man, and all that stuff. So, it's really cool, really cool. And it's always a plus to have that positive experience with things, for sure.
Yeah.
So I've got this bit here that says go-to media. So what would you go to what is it that you fall back on probably the most when it comes to film, TV, or games or music? What is your initial go-to? What's your comfort blanket entertainment-wise? Alex?
So for me, I'm into like shows like King of the Hill and South Park. Yeah. So those are kind of go-tos for me as far as like television goes. As far as for movies, the Scooby-Doo movies, like Zombie Island, Cyber Chase. Those are kind of comfort movies for me, that I will always go to and enjoy, just because there's something nostalgic about them for me. that just kind of create a comfort. And then there's a game called Bully, which is a Rockstar game that came out, I think, in 2005. It was originally for the PlayStation 2. I try to play that at least once a year. So that's definitely another go-to for me.
Okay. Eric?
For me, the TV shows, there's a lot of them. There's a lot. I not only like film and movies, but I watch a lot of TV. I guess my go-to, my comfort is, as far as animated, I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have that on my arm.
Yeah.
For the nostalgia reasons, I've watched all of from the 80s up until, Rise, and there's a new animated film coming out here next month. So that's always a go-to for me. Other TV sitcoms and things are like Parks and Recreation. I love Parks and Rec. Big Bang Theory, Young Sheldon makes me laugh. Movie-wise, besides horror, action, comedy, things like Jim Carrey movies, I'm a huge fan of. Kind of said that he's retiring as acting, but love Jim Carrey, love his movies. Action-wise, Jason Statham, which I kind of got from my wife. That's her free pass is Jason Statham. So if she ever meets him, she can, if he
shake his hand,
lonely, she gets to shake his hand is what she gets to do.
Right.
But his movies are fun and entertaining, and you can't beat his accent. So, as a gentleman myself, he's that accent kind of pulls at your heartstrings a little bit. But
you've got the Meg 2 coming soon.
Yes, the Meg 2. We actually just watched. I did Meg 1. My wife's seen it in theaters because it's Jason Statham. So anything he comes out, she has to go see in theaters because he's so dreamy. But we watched that here at the house, and it was awesome. I mean, Jason Statham punching a shark in the face is epic. And I'm excited for the second one too. So that's movie wise for me. Video games, I play a lot of Smite. If you check out my Twitch channel, it's a lot of Smite, which is a League of Legends only with gods and goddesses of all different genres. You got like Roman and Mayan, Chinese, Japanese, Polynesian. You got all those gods and goddesses. I think they have about 80 some now, but it's the League of Legends style. So that's fun. That's what I mostly stream, and of course I do sports too, but mostly Smite. Spend my paychecks on Smite to get skins and stuff for the game.
Okay. So what advice would you give to people if they were starting their own podcast?
My advice would be to pick a topic that you enjoy. That was something that I was kind of battling with on when to start one, is what should I talk about? And I was looking at, what got the views and what got the followers, but nothing really, it wasn't stuff that I think that I could do it for the long run. So I would say pick something that you enjoy. The episodes, you'll come out with the episodes, and the following will come sooner or later. Things don't happen overnight. But podcasting should be fun, and make sure you do something that you enjoy.
Yeah, there's plenty of people who are as weird as you are out there.
100%. I'm afraid of them.
So, Alex, any advice?
Yeah, just kind of in the same vein as Eric. Just, make sure you're doing something that you want to do, something that you are passionate about to a degree. I mean, like, obviously for us, not every movie that we watch is a winner, but we still can find enjoyment out of that. Because of we're doing this in a field that we enjoy, which is horror. Pursuing your passions, pursuing what you enjoy doing is in my opinion, creating something outside of yourself is often kind of, depending on who you are, a good purpose in life is creating something outside of yourself. Just kind of, to me, this medium, this field gives me a voice. Obviously, like, I'm not like big headed or anything where I'm like, oh, my opinion is the end all be all or anything. But to me, it feels like it gives some validity and validation to my personal feelings, my personal opinions on things. So just, do what you like to do. And if other people, other people will come, other people are like you, they will enjoy it if they find you. And if they don't, then that's okay. I've gotten in arguments with people over things online, about my opinion on movies and things, when I do YouTube. And if somebody disagrees with you, that's okay. At the end of the day, it's just somebody else that is just like you, has an opinion like you, and theirs is just as valid as yours.
Yeah.
It's just depending on how you hold yourself and how you speak to those people.
And you don't want to be in my van. My van's, down by the river. It's the unmarked van, so it's not a van to be in.
That's where our first meet and greet's going to be, is a van down by the river.
Hey, absolutely. It'll be an econo line with just cutouts of ice cream treats and just duct tape to the side of the van. Free candy inside.
Better that than a forest, because a forest, you'll go there and that's just got serial killers waiting there for you.
That'll be year 2.
Year 2. So during this bit, Alex can also explain other show, whatever else is involved with. So where can people find you and get hold of you?
So what I do, you can find me pretty much anywhere. A Spooky Hippie, ASPOOKYHIPPIE. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Those are my major platforms. You can find me on Bandcamp. I will be eventually putting my music back on Spotify and Apple Music, which will all be under the same name and banner. And of course, under the pod. That is where I am most consistent about uploads, because I have a wonderful co-host like Eric who keeps me accountable and keeps me on task. Otherwise, I don't, if I was in charge of this podcast, and like if I was like a main host or something, I don't think things would get done as much. But yeah, that's where you can find me, A Spooky Hippie, pretty much anywhere.
Okay. Eric?
You can find me on all platforms, Jigsaw Puppet. Shout out to the Saw franchise. That's J1GSAWPUPP3T. Jigsaw Puppet. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, all under that same banner. And of course, like Alex mentioned, the podcast at Under the Pod is our podcast where we're active at on there. But yeah, it's come check us out. Like we've said, we enjoy fan interaction and just not necessarily fan interaction, I guess, how small we are, but just listener interaction and interacting with people. That's what social media is for. In my opinion, it's not to be a bum, so to speak, and get into arguments with people. It's a place to meet people and be kind. The saying, dude, be kind. That's what we aim for. We like interactions. We like people's opinions. We respect people's opinions and thoughts and go from there.
Yep. They're on Twitter and Instagram in case anybody's interested.
Yes. Twitter, Instagram are the main spots there. And yeah, we're not on the Facebook with the podcast. Mostly active on Twitter and good old IG.
Cool. Anyway, thank you for speaking with me today, guys. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's been cool. And it was nice to be surprised by Alex being on, because we weren't going to have the three of us. And then suddenly being told, oh, Alex is in as well. I thought, that's brilliant. I've got the dream team together.
Yeah, sorry about that. I do know that I am a detriment when it comes to scheduling.
Hey, we all have outside lives and stuff too. So I'm just glad that we can get it fixed. I know last week it was my mistake that I totally blanked out on things. So I appreciate you giving us these second and third chances to get things together. It was really fun.
You've been so patient with us.
People have to be patient with me because of my work schedule. So there you go. When can you record? Well, I can record on a Tuesday or Wednesday because they're my nights off.
And if you record with chaps like us, that's across the pond, there's quite a bit of a time difference there. So we definitely appreciate you, working around that as well, and love what you're doing. I can't speak for all of your guests, but I'm sure they all appreciate, giving them an extra platform to get their product out. So that's awesome. Definitely got a listener and me, and look forward to following that, and looking forward to branching out to all the other podcasts that you have on.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyway, you can find Pods Like Us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and contact us through podslikeus@gmail.com. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.
Hello, good sir.
Hello, blimey. There we go. There you go. Straight away, I'm English.
Hey, it's all good. I figured, with the time frame and everything there, it's sorry to keep you up and whatnot.
That's okay. Well, used to it, podcasters, we all do this, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I know Alex is here with us, I think.
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Fantastic.
We're here for you, and we definitely appreciate you having us on. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Well, I'm here for you guys. I mean, this is to get your show, out there even more than it is now. That's the idea.
Absolutely, and we're always open for that, and we love to get listeners from across the pond too. So that's awesome. We appreciate it, and thank you for everything that you do. I've had a chance to listen to a couple of your episodes, and really enjoy them. So I'm gonna have to listen to some more. I've checked out a few already, but
without sounding a bit cheeky, go on then. Anyone's really stand out to you that you've really, enjoyed?
I had the let me find it because I just had it up here. The Bitches and Beards, I think, was the one that most recent one that I listened to
with Max.
Yep. They were very very interesting. So, I enjoyed it. I mean, I haven't had a chance to listen to a lot of them yet, but that was one. I guess I immediately go to the one with profanity in it. So when I saw Bitches, I'm like, I'm going to listen to that one, or why not?
Yeah, I'm going to have an interesting one because it's very soon. I'm going to have one where I'm going to have to put a disclaimer immediately, because there's the F word in the title of the show itself. So there we go.
Yeah, we I put the exclaimed or explicit on all of our podcasts just because we do me more than Alex, but tend to have a little little language thing from time to time. But so I just put that on there just for funsies. But we try not to go too far, into the language too much. But I have a habit of doing it from time to time.
Well, the fact is, you're just chatting normally, aren't you? So, sometimes it happens.
Right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Shit happens. There you go.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
But yep, you're the boss. So lead the way, good sir.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. There we go.
Awesome.
Anything that I missed, guys, or you're okay with that?
I'm good with it.
Eric?
No, I'm perfectly good with it. Again, definitely greatly appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have us on. Really, really cool. Nice to meet you.
You too.
And if later on down the line, if you'd like to have us back on, we'd love to. And same with you if you'd like to join us for an episode.
If you ever got a movie you just want to talk about, we would love to have you on.
We are on about, or I was speaking with somebody, trying to remember who it was now, but we're on about, but just before Halloween, that sort of period, we're going to try and get a group chat together of all different podcasters. And the idea is to just discuss what your go-to horror films are for the Halloween period. If you're up for a group chat either for that would be great.
Absolutely. I'd be down. Alex?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. I'll let you know nearer the time then. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Likewise.